All right, so make sure you've numbered at number 9. Number 9, inequalities are something that y'all have seen before, but you might not have been calling them the correct name. All right, we do need to make one correction on this note sheet real quick. So I jumped the gun when I made our note outline. These symbols right here, we're going to talk about that when we get to inequalities with algebra. We're not doing some algebra yet. So if you can just we're going to shade this out. Okay, just shade that out. We're going to talk about them. You'll notice they look very similar to what's next to them. We're going to do those when we get to that algebra section in a few weeks. Jumped the gun. I got a little excited about inequalities. All right. So let's talk about the word inequality. Do y'all see a word in there that maybe you've heard before? Siobhan? Equal. What does equal mean? What does that mean? McKenna? I Kenna. Today's not my day. I'm sorry. I Kenna?
Well, equal means the same.
Like they're the same? So in order to say that something's equal, can I just have one thing? No, I got to have 2 things, right? So I'm saying 2 things are equal. 2 things are equal. What am I actually doing with those 2 things? I know I'm saying that they're equal. What am I doing with them?
Comparing.
I'm comparing them, okay? So here's the thing. Now, this does say equal, but does it just say equal? No. But we agree that if I'm saying 2 things are equal, it's because I'm comparing them. Do y'all agree with that sentence? What I just said?
Yes.
If I'm saying they're equal, I'm comparing them. What an inequality sounds a little bit fancy, all right? Because it actually describes that action. An inequality is a comparison of 2 numbers. Now, here's my question for you. So we said when we say that 2 things are equal, it's because we compared them, right? Are 2 numbers, are 2 things always equal? No, sometimes one is greater. Sometimes one is less. So an inequality doesn't just mean that it's equal. It could also be less than. It could also be greater than. But it starts off with that comparison of the 2 numbers. Are we okay with that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. These symbols in this little chart, all right, that symbol, all right, raise your hand if you've seen that before. Good, hands down. Raise your hand if you have a hard time remembering which one it is. Is it greater than? Is it less than? I don't know. It's the pointing thing, okay? All right, hands down. All right, does everyone know what hand they write with? I know I write with my right hand. I know I'm right-handed. That has been engraved in my head, okay? So everyone can tell me which one is their left hand. Especially since you're in math class and you have a pencil in your right hand or your left hand, depending on which handed you are. All right. So what I want you to do is hold your left hand up, and I want you to make an L. All right. An L for less. An L for less. Sorry, I had to hold my mirror. Okay. So everyone has an L for less. Okay. Are you ready? So I have an L. Let me move this a little bit so I can get up against here. All right. I have an L for less. Are you ready? If I kind of tilt it and pinch it. Look at that. Did you see what it formed? So I have an L. What does L stand for? Less. And if I pinch it, it forms my less than symbol. Y'all, no one ever told me that in school. I always had trouble with it. I don't know which one's less than. I had trouble. I probably did not get that figured out, if I'm completely honest, until sometime in high school. All right. I just knew the alligator eats the big one. All right. It got me through a lot. All right. But now I'm telling you, if it can make an L, that's my less than. All right? Here's something else I want to point out. That's an arrow, right? Do y'all agree that kind of looks like an arrow? If I do a stick right here, oh, it's an arrow. All right, what direction is that pointing? Left. Because it's left. All right? Now, greater than, I can't make a G with my hand and it do an arrow, so that doesn't work. All right, so let's go ahead and fill this. This is definitely less than. Less than. Okay. So that means this one must be greater than. All right. So you can keep that in mind. If it doesn't make the L, okay, it's greater. All right. Anyone in here like Frosted Flakes? Frosted Flakes, okay. All right, even if you don't like Frosty Flakes, does everyone know who Tony the Tiger is? He's like the spokesperson for Frosted Flakes. He's the one on the commercial that goes, "They're great." So, and this sounds silly, but the way that I remember greater than is because it's pointing to the right, and it's great. So if it points to the right, it is great. If it points to the left, it's less. You also have that little L trick to help you if you forget which way your left is. All right. So this bottom one, and when I write it, I'm even going to write my G, then I'm going to write my R capitalized. Greater. Greater than. Greater than with my terrible spelling. I'm sorry. Greater than. It's really important, guys, that we can tell which one is which. All right. If it's not less than and it's not greater than, what's my only other option?
Equal to.
Equal to. So I am going to also include that. An equal sign would mean equal to. An equal sign would mean equal to. All right. Questions about those symbols? All right. Y'all ready to do some comparing? Okay. Now I'm going to be honest real quick. All right. Because I know, like, in the past, like, when your teachers show you this for the first time, that happens in the intermediate school, like, they help you remember by drawing, like, little Pac-Mans, because Pac-Man wants a bigger number. Or, like, my teacher, I remember specifically alligators. Like, we did alligators. And I remember getting in trouble for, like, drawing teeth. Like, every time I did one of my symbols, I would, like, draw teeth on there. Okay, we are in 6th grade. Like, we're not drawing teeth. Like, you can visualize it in your head, but we're not going to be drawing Pac-Man, and we're not going to draw teeth, okay? We okay with that? Those are great tools to use mentally, but I don't need to see it on your paper. Got it? All right. So, Pac-Man eats the big one, alligator eats the big one, but we know how to tell which symbol is which. All right. Y'all ready to look at some examples? Number 1. I'm comparing 8, which is positive, and negative 5. So can someone tell me a sentence using my symbols that we just discussed in the chart? How does 8 relate to negative 5? 8 is blank, negative 5. Javon. 8 is greater than negative 5. Do y'all agree with that statement?
Yes.
All right. Here's something if you have trouble, like especially when we get to like negatives and positives. All right. We know a positive is always going to be bigger than a negative because my positives are on which side? The right side because they're great. My negatives go on the left side of the number line. All right. Camilla? Negatives are below 0 and positives are above. That's another great way to remember that. Okay? All right. So number 2, how's number 2 going to happen? I mean, 11's a big number. How does negative 11, though, relate to 3? Olivia? All right, so we would say 3 is greater than, but remember, we got to start from the very beginning. So we're going to say negative 11 is less than 3. So again, when you're writing that symbol, if you just want to make sure that alligator is eating the 3, that's awesome. Tony, don't work ahead of me. I see you, okay? All right, if I just want to remember that alligator is eating the 3 because it's positive and it's bigger, that's good. But now when I read the sentence to my math teacher, I'm going to read it as negative 11 is less because it's pointing to the left than 3. Camilla?
The thing from last year was that like our teacher said like the bigger side that's opening would be like greater and like the point is
And that's exactly, like, that's another great way to remember it. So, like, here when I read this, I see the big side first, right? The big open side, like a big open mouth, okay? So it's big and open, that's greater. Here when I read it, it's the little bitty pointy side. If it's the little bitty pointy side, that's going to be less, all right? So negative 11 is little bitty pointy, less than 3, okay? All right. Oh, number 3, something funky happening here, so let's be careful. We talked about these yesterday. What are those lines called? What are they called, T-Bit? That's okay. Looking back at our notes, that's fine. Flip. Go ahead. Absolute value bars. I know, some of y'all ready? All right. Absolute value bars. Okay. What do absolute value bars do? What do they do? Hunter, maybe? Okay, no? Okay. Camilla, what do absolute value bars do? Kind of. It's something about the number inside. Hunter?
It measures the distance of a number
from 0. Mm-hmm. So, Hunter, how far is negative 24 from 0?
24.
24 spaces. Do y'all all agree? Negative 24 is 24 spaces from 0. All right? You remember last night, if this was a problem, underneath it you would write 24? Okay, so here's the thing, guys. I know that we are working on this, and I know that some of us can look at that and go, oh, it's 24, automatically. All right, can I see you do that if it's in your head?
No.
No. So do you have to write it on your paper?
Yes.
Yes, please. Okay? So underneath my negative 24, I wrote 24 because it's 24 spaces from 0. So now when I compare it in my head, and I'm thinking the absolute value of negative 24, I'm thinking about just 24. How is that related to 6? How is that related to 6? Kenna. It's greater than 6. Now normally if I had a negative, it would automatically be less, wouldn't it? But because this is in those bars, Tiva, you with me? Because this is in the bars, it became positive because it was just the distance. Tony?
So whenever you have the bars, whatever number's inside of it, it automatically becomes not less than?
Not necessarily. It's going to become positive for whatever it is. Okay? On the homework tonight, no. On the review tomorrow and the quiz, yes.
Last night.
No, last night you didn't have any where you had to compare. Okay, you did have some where you had to find the absolute value. All right. So number 4, Tony, on number 4, this says the absolute value of negative 2, right? What is that going to be? 2. Because negative 2 is 2 spaces from 0, correct? All right, so now, Tony, how are 2 and 2 related? They're equal to. So that's what I'm going to write there. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to put greater, or you're always going to put less, or you're always going to put equal to. It just means now I'm really looking at this number instead of the one that was in the lines. Does that make sense? And then we just make our decision from there, because it could be any of them. Noah? Yes. All right, are there any questions? Before I go any further, are there any questions on number 4? Any questions on number 4? Jet?
So like a 6 and the absolute value line is another 6 if we brought down it and that.
All right. Number 5, I have some more absolute value bars. What's going to happen to that 8 that's in the absolute value, Noah? It's just going to be 8. Because 8 is 8 spaces from 0. And what symbol do I need here? Jet. Greater than. Because 8 is greater than negative 2. Excellent job with these symbols. I'm really impressed. All right, number 6. Number 6 is tricky. Number 6 is tricky. All right, so here's what I want. Hands down for a second, okay? I know some of you are like, no, it's not, and it's still here. Okay, fine, it's not. But, all right, I want you to remember, for negative numbers, the biggest number is the one that's closest to 0, because 0 is close to my positives. Y'all agree with that? So for the negative numbers, the biggest one is closest to 0, because that makes it closest to positive. All right, here's another question for you. So going back to my alligator. Would my alligator, so negative would mean like the alligator hasn't eaten, right? If it's negative. So would my alligator rather not have eaten for 10 days or not have eaten for 99 days? 10. They like to eat, right? Like that's the whole thing. I don't actually know. I don't actually think they eat that much, okay? But my alligator is going to choose the negative 10 because that is closer to the positive days, closer to being able to eat. Does Does that make
sense?
sense?
The highest number is the closest to being being close to 0.
No, the smallest negative is closest to being to 0. Does that make sense? Do you agree that 10 is closer to 0 than 99?
10 would be
Closer to 0, which means it's closer to my positives, which means it's going to be bigger. All right? If I were to look on a number line, which one's going to be further to the right? The 10.
I thought I heard you say the highest number would be close to
Okay, I did say the highest number is going to be closer to 0 because it's negative. Does that make sense? So if I'm looking at my negatives, here's my negatives. Remember, they're from the left. They're going. It's getting closer to 0 because it's getting big. After I get to 0, now I'm going to the positives. So now the further it gets away from 0, the bigger it is. But for the negatives, the closer it gets, the bigger. For positives, the further it gets, the bigger. So yes, thank you. That is what I said, and that is what I meant. So yes. All right. Hunter?
So you're saying, like, if it was, like, 5 and 1,000, the 5 would be greater than the negative?
If it was negative 5 and negative 1,000, the 5 would be greater. If it was just 5 positive and 1,000 positive, which one's bigger? 1,000. But if they're negative, it kind of flips around. All right? Camilla? Mm-hmm. Way farther to the left. Very good. Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. Are there any questions? Number 6. I think number 6. That one, to me, that's the one where it's the hardest because you're having to think of negatives. Guys, my tip, if both of them are negative, think backwards. All right? Because negative, it goes backwards, right? They're going to the back. So just think backwards. Yes. Mm-hmm. Which one is closer to 0? And that's what we were mentioning. For negatives, think about how it's closer to 0. All right. Let's look at these next sections. For my next examples, it says, write each set from least to greatest. From least to greatest. What type of numbers are going to be smaller? My positives or my negatives? Truett? Negative. So if I'm going from least to greatest, I need to start with my negatives. Are y'all okay with that? Okay, so for my negatives, the least negative is the one that is the furthest from 0, right? What number in my negatives is the furthest one from 0? Camilla? Negative 3. Okay, so I'm going to mark that out because I used it. What's going to be after my negative 3, Tony?
Oh, after negative 3 is going to be negative 1.
Excellent job. All right, and after my negative 1, Rodrigo? So we're out of our negatives. What's going to come next?
0.
Excellent. 0. All right. After my 0, now I'm going into the positives. So now I want to be getting big. What's going to come next? Hunter. Positives. Smallest positive number is? 5. And then we have 6. And I want y'all to look at this. Look at this. From the negatives, I'm getting close to 0. There's 0. So now I've got to go and get far away. Okay, so I got close to 0. What number is closest to 0, 5 or 6? 5. And is it closer to 0 in my list? Yeah. All right. Number 2. What is my first number need to be? What is my least number? What is the number furthest to the left on the number line? Alana? Negative 9. All right. After negative 9, Tony? Negative 3.
Why are they all
Just to see if it threw you off. Okay, after negative 3, Olivia? 0, and then we have our positive 6. And they were in order. All right. All right. Next one. All right, Chris. All right, next numbers. Order each set of integers from greatest to least. So now I'm starting with the big ones, which means I'm starting with positive or negative? Okay, I'm starting with my positive numbers. So what am I going to start with here, Hunter? Close. Be careful. What's with that 25?
Oh, it's negative. So 11.
So 11. Since 25 is negative, I have to start with 11. All right? So after 11, we're going from greatest to least. After 11, what am I going to have, Tevet? 3. Excellent job. Now, after 3, that's all of my positives. Which of these negative numbers is going to be closest to my positive numbers? Which negative is going to be closest to my positive? Hunter. It would be negative 4 because it's closer to 0, which is closer to positive. All right, and then my only one left is negative 25. All right. Number 2. What is my biggest number? Greatest to least. What's my biggest number? Kelsey? 30. All right, what's going to be after 30, Olivia? 3. And after 3, Tiva? 2. And after 2, Camilla? Negative 6. Very good. And my last one, Tony? Negative 18. Excellent. Okay. Your homework is on the back. It's the whole thing. It's 1 through 22. Because I made a copy of both pages that are in your textbook. It's actually spread out in your textbook. And I just cut the ones that I wanted you to do. So it's the whole thing. Number it like it is on the paper. You need to do it on your own sheet of paper, okay? I want it on your own sheet. All right? I want you getting started on that, guys. I want you getting started. We got a few minutes. All right? I'm going to pass back your test from last Friday.